Greetings to everyone that are here in this space. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today for this year's ASPB Meet the Candidates, Meet the President-elect's Candidates webinar. In this live event, you will be able to ask questions and learn more about our candidates' plan for leading ASPB into the future. By getting involved in ASPB and voting in our election, you are helping shape the future of the society and the plant science community as a whole. So we really, really appreciate you being here. And if you're going to be watching or you're watching this recording, thank you for tuning in. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few technical details. If you are experiencing technical issues, please let us know about those in the chat box or emailing me directly at jpadilla@aspb.org. Please note that we are recording this webinar and we plan on posting this video in the next few days. So definitely tune back in if you would like to rewatch the video, or if you wanted to share with any of your colleagues who are not able to join today. We highly encourage you to do so. This webinar will definitely give you a lot of insight on our candidates. So we hope that you help us spread the word about the election and also specifically about this webinar recording as well once it's live. If you have questions for our candidates, please add them in the question and answer box. That's where our moderator today will pull the questions from. So hopefully you came with questions and are ready to ask those to our candidates who are here with us today. Note that there is an option to upvote questions, meaning if there is a question that you see in the question box, you can thumbs up that question, and that will indicate that you are also interested in hearing more about that particular topic. And at that point, Janine, who will be our moderator, will make sure that that gets asked to our candidates. Again, I'm really encouraging you to use this feature because that will really make sure that the questions that are important to you gets asked to the candidate. And now I want to welcome our moderator today. Janine Brainin is with us today to navigate your questions and moderate our discussion. Janine Brainin is a postdoc at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in Doreen Ware's lab. She serves as the co-chair of the ASPB Alliance and is a member of the Membership Council. Through her roles, she aims to support and foster a close connection with the scientific community and contribute significantly to its growth. Thank you for moderating today's event, Janine. And now I'm going to hand it over to you to start our discussion. Take it away, Janine.
Thank you, Jason, and hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Jason shared, please post questions in the Q&A box so that I can prompt the candidates. I would first like to start by briefly introducing the candidates. First, I want to introduce Kent Chapman. Kent Chapman is a Regent Professor of Biochemistry at the University of Texas. And our next candidate is Nima Sinha. Nima is a Professor of Plant Biology at UC Davis. Before we begin the Q&A, I want to invite our candidates to each share a brief opening statement. And first, I'd like to invite Kent to share.
Thank you, Janine. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm Kent Chapman. As Janine said, I'm a Regents Professor at the University of North Texas. I'm also director of the Biodiscovery Institute, which is one of 4 institutes of research excellence at the University of North Texas. And I'd like to thank the nomination committee for thinking that I could do this job. I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Sinha on her nomination. ASPB president is a big job. I'm well aware, and did have pause when Hong called me to ask me about serving. But I will, as ASPB president, be committed to serving our mission to the best of my ability, to promote the growth and development of plant biology, to encourage and publish research in plant biology, and to promote the interest, growth, and education of plant scientists in general. Although the elements of this mission are as relevant today as they were when the society was founded 100 years ago, the ecosystem for plant biology and the ways in which we do almost everything have dramatically changed. My vision for ASPB is one of a professional society that would rely on its strengths, of its strong foundation, and also embrace the future with the collective inspiration and efforts of its members. I am eager to see the future progress on a strategic plan where all members see a place that they can contribute to ASPB's mission. ASPB has been my professional home for 35 years. I have had opportunities provided to me for professional development by the society from the time I was a graduate student until these later stages of my career as a professor. I've had the opportunity to serve ASPB in a number of areas at the southern section of ASPB, both as a host for meetings and a officer of the southern section. And I've also served at the national level, most recently as treasurer and chair of the board of trustees of ASPB. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve as president if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. Now, our final president-elect candidate, Lanima Sinha. Can you please share, please?
Yes. Thank you so much, first of all, Jason and Janine, for organizing this forum. It's a great venue for Kent and I to share our passion for serving ASPB in whatever capacity we can. And thank you all for listening. So, as Janine mentioned, I'm a distinguished professor in plant biology at the University of California in Davis. And I have a deep interest in plant structure and function, and also in the use of phylogenetic tools to understand how structure and function evolved in the plant kingdom. I've been an ASPB member for over 25 years and have tried my best to contribute in whatever way I could to the society. I currently serve as a monitoring editor for plant physiology, and I was co-editor for 3 recent focus issues, actually. I was elected ASPB Fellow a while back, and I've served as chair of the Fellows Nomination Committee, the Minority Affairs Committee, the Gibbs Medal Committee, and also an ad hoc committee that was looking to see if rules should be changed for the nomination process for the 2020 ballot. And I'm currently a Legacy Society member. So my journey with ASPB has been dedicated to advancing the frontiers of plant biology, trying to shepherd the best possible manuscripts through the rigorous peer review process, and also spearheading initiatives for broader scientific literacy. And, I would like to keep working to champion these initiatives that not only elevate scientific discourse, but also increase and enhance inclusivity, both within the society, like ASPB, and society in general. But I would also like to empower the next generation of plant biologists to work towards enlightening society at large about the indispensable role of plants in sustaining life on our planet. I feel like this is something that's very evident to us plant biologists. But when you talk to people, they don't see how foundational plants are for our survival on this planet. And so this is something that I think that the ASPB leadership, and especially the young members, could really help us promote. So with that, I'll stop. I think I might have run out of time. You all?
Yes. Thank you so much, Lanima. To kick off the Q&A, I would like to start by asking the first question, and I would like to ask Kent to respond to my first question. And so the question that I want to pose first is, what do you think are the biggest challenges that ASPB and the plant biology community will face over the next 10 years, and how you as president will make sure ASPB is poised to face those challenges for the organization, for the community that it serves?
Thank you for the question, Janine. Well, I think there are a number of challenges that ASPB faces. I think one important one is the declining membership at ASPB. Society is only as strong as its members, and I would really like to make it a sincere effort to increase our membership in ASPB. In fact, I'd like to see us double our membership. We've gone under 3,000 members recently, and I'd like to see us up over 6,000 within the next 3 years. And I think we can do that because there are an order of magnitude more than that that actually follow Plante on X. 73,000 follow it on Facebook. And it seems to me that we could translate a number of those followers into avid members of ASPB. So that's one area that I think is important to address. Another area that I think the society will be grappling with is the reliance of funding from the revenue from journals. And this is a changing landscape. Our publication landscape is changing. It seemed in the last few years, we've partnered with Oxford University Press to help us cope with this changing landscape. And it seems that because of mandates coming out of Washington, that there will be an acceleration of flipping the journals to open access. And this could create, I think, financial difficulties for the society. And I think the society needs to really pay attention to these changes. I know that they are, and I know that leadership is engaged in this along with staff. And as ASPB president, I would like to make sure that we remain on solid footing financially at ASPB. Stop there.
Perfect. Now, Lanima, Lanima.
Yeah. So of course, membership is an issue, as Kent mentioned, and tied into this issue is membership fees. And, maybe there'll be a question later on about this and we can reconsider it, or maybe I could, address that right now. And I think that a lot of people that follow Plante, Plante is a free forum. Membership is not. How are we going to convert those Plante members or Plante followers into actual members of the society? And this is something that we really have to grapple with. Do we have to come up with more innovative ways of getting members in? I'm sure there'll be questions about this later, so I can hold off on that. But the other important thing to think about is that our members in general, many of them are engaged in research, and general research funding crunch is supposed to continue. And mitigating this will require a lot of lobbying and outreach efforts from ASPB and the membership. And, I know that the society and leadership is already engaged in this, but I think that part of this also is the fact that, I mentioned this in my opening statement, is that society at large is not really aware of the crucial importance of plant research and how it might directly impact food, feed, and ecosystem stability. And these are all things that, young people at large, not just membership, not just people who follow Plante, young people, high school kids, school kids, they're all aware of the impact of the climate crisis on the planet and all of these issues. What they don't realize is that the direct line to mitigating these problems flows through plants. And so how can the society then really work in vigorous outreach to let people know that photosynthetic organisms are crucial for planetary and human health? And I think that ASPB can play a leadership role in this effort.
Thank you. So, because we have no other questions in the question inside of the Q&A box, I'm just going to go to the next question that I have. And that question is, do you think ASPB does enough to encourage diversity among the membership and the leadership? And if not, what more should and could we do? I'll ask this question first to Lanima.
So I think that ASPB has made an effort in the last several years to directly encourage DEI objectives, diversity, equity, and inclusion objectives within the society. But I think that we have to continue to work towards this and look both to the society membership and beyond. The crucial question is, those of us who have been around for a long time really get vested in the status quo, and we don't really often appreciate what the problems are. And so I think that perhaps we should have some really well-crafted questionnaires that have top-level questions, but also follow-up questions. And we really need to find out what the membership at large, and particularly our younger members, think the most important DEI issues are that ASPB should tackle. And of course, these should be at the society level, in the scientific community. And of course, if we can work towards making a public impact with these efforts, that would be even better. But I think that we have to ask, does the membership think that what we are doing is enough? Where do they think we should focus our attention best? And how do they think we're failing if we are? And so with that knowledge, I think we have all the good intentions. And certainly these are efforts that we can work towards, and we think we've been working towards, but is it enough?
Great, thank you so much. Kent?
Yes, thank you. And I agree with Nilima. There is certainly more that can be done in this space. I am heartened by efforts that ASPB has made in recent years. For example, adding early career scientists to the committees in governance and essentially all aspects of the society activities has really been great. And of course, they are a voice for change, and they are a voice for expanding DEI efforts. I would look to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for suggestions on how we can improve as a society. I know that NSF has funded a grant that ASPB participates in called Root and Shoot. And this is a grant that is intended, along with some partner societies, to really be an important driver for cultural change within our professional societies. And although I left office at the end of 2023, I know that ASPB was really working hard to be sure that its strategic planning process included these important DEI issues in everything that ASPB would like to do. So I'm very supportive of this and would like to see it continue. Like to see some of the efforts that we have continue. And I do like the idea of seeking advice from our membership. Thank you.
Okay, so an anonymous attendee asked a question about, and thank you, Kent, so much for answering that question. Do you have thoughts on how to support our growing community members? And with decreasing numbers of dues being paying members, how could we expand our revenue to serve the Plan community without putting too much pressure on dues paying members? I feel like this is a really good question, because I did also have a question in terms of me, who is a part of the membership committee. And to add with this question, if you can also answer, what can we do to appeal to younger members to bring them in and also increase this membership that we want, like Kent said, by 6,000 members. So I will ask that question first to Kent.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you, Janine. I think I got most of what was in there. If I drift off topic, please push me back on. But I think I understand how do we make it accessible for people to join ASPB and have as many people as possible to join ASPB and not make it financially a burden on them, but at the same time be mindful about our revenue streams at ASPB. Is that right? Is that?
Yeah, that's right. That's the
Okay.
question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'd like to hear a lot about what the membership committee has to say about this. I know they've discussed this at length. And you've had various ideas. Different societies do sort of a sliding scale depending upon where you are, what stage you are in your career, or where you're located geographically on the amount of dues that a member would be charged. I know that these ideas have been bantered about. I've also seen suggestions that we dramatically lower the dues. I will say this, that the membership dues really contribute very little to the overall budget at ASPB. And so, and on top of that, we provide a lot of free memberships as well. So, maybe we should change the mindset and not think that this is a revenue generating activity, but rather a member expanding activity and an accessibility, increasing accessibility for people to join ASPB. I know that sounds weird for a former treasurer to be saying at ASPB, but I think that there are other places that we can look to generate revenue, that this is not the place where we're going to make a lot of money on our members, so to speak. I think that ASPB has hired, or at least they had on the books to hire a business development consultant this year, looking for opportunities to increase the potential ways in which ASPB or ASPB products could generate revenue for the society. I'm eager to see how this has developed and how and the ideas that this person may have suggested. So I think, and then I'll also say there's another very bright spot in terms of revenue that I noticed over the last few years, and that is we have a very generous membership. Donations to ASPB have become a large portion of our income over the last few years, and it may be that some of our most cherished programs can actually be funded through charitable donations from our community. So I think that there are other places to look to generate revenue for the society, and I think that placing a financial burden on our members by either increasing dues or something like that, I think is going the wrong direction and would be counterproductive. That answer your question?
That answered my question. I would like to say thank you so much. And let's move this question now on to Linima.
I agree with everything that Ken said. I feel that a better scaling of membership fees is entirely what's required to make sure that we continue to grow membership. It should be much lower for the beginner cohorts. It should be much lower for overseas membership. I was thinking, like how do you scale this? What about a cup of coffee? What do I pay for a cup of Starbucks coffee in the US? And what do I pay for a cup of coffee, somewhere, some overseas country? And why don't we, tie these things into stuff like that? Because if we place an inordinate burden, and the overseas members are a large part of our membership, we want to continue to grow that membership, but we have to scale it appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
This also has to come, though, with an increased value attached to the membership. Because, there's no point in lowering membership fees for the more beginner levels and then raising it so high that when people move from, say, undergraduate or graduate to postdoc, suddenly they have to pay so much more that it's not worth their while. It would only be worth their while if they see a real value in that membership. So, like, how do we increase value for the more beginner and junior members of the society? The other thing that, I was poking around a little bit, and I know that, those of us who work with federal grants know federal grants do not allow membership dues to be paid out of direct costs. And a lot of it has to do with, they go, well, you cannot tie the benefits of that membership directly to the grant objectives. So I have a feeling that we maybe need to provide better guidance on how to justify a more direct benefit to the grant from membership, so that those dues could, it's not a lot of money, but if every person that is supported on the grant, their membership dues could be paid off of that, that would already make a huge difference. So this could also perhaps be something where we talk to the federal granting agencies and seek guidance on how to make this possible. And through coordination with funding agencies. And then I was thinking again back to Plante and how we have so much engagement in Plante. And, maybe we need to think of ways to connect Plante content creation with a system of points that leads to membership value. I know that that's already happening for people who are reviewing for journals, that you collect points and that can go towards paying your membership fees. But if Plante is our biggest outreach point right now, then maybe we could think about a similar way for content creation in Plante to lead to membership benefits. And then, of course, growing the endowment, as Kent mentioned, is a big part of how we do things that we cannot entirely meet out of membership dues and are looking at reduced publication revenues.
Okay, thank you so much, Lamina. Okay, so I will move on to the next question, and just to switch gears a little bit, but still on the same topic, we're going to ask the question of ASBP is arguably over dependent on journal-derived income streams. And what other ways do you think, and this question is going to first go to Lanima, the society should fund its activities?
So we touched on this a little bit, both Kent and I, about the growing the grants and other endowments that that we have. We should be looking for more innovative methods, perhaps, to grow our endowment. How about, every time somebody gives us a gift, we make it a timed challenge that says many small donations will unlock this big gift. Like if somebody is pledging, I don't know, I'm making up a number here. If somebody wants to pledge $500 to ASBB, how about we link it with, if we got 10 $5 donations, that would unlock this thing. And so, people are happy to contribute small amounts if they see a big benefit coming to the society. And so these are some ways where we could think about how we leverage the committed grant money to get more small donations. And these could be really, $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 donations, with a number of donations, not the amount of donations. Industry support is always very important, but maybe we could think about linking this industry support to summer undergraduate or graduate internships, and perhaps that would unlock some endowments from industry. Specific funds linked to specific society objectives can also be explored. Like we have a challenge, and then we create a funding objective geared towards meeting that challenge. So these are all ways that we could think about. to grow our funding base. But there's no real magic here. It's going to require a lot of hard work.
Yeah, yes, you're right. So I would say thank you, Lanima, and move this question now on to Kent.
Thank you, Janine. I appreciate that. And those were some good thoughts, Nalima. I appreciate those. And yes, we did touch on this a bit and mentioned that that ASPB has looked recently to business development activities outside of the journal revenue stream to help fund activities. And a long time ago, actually, Plante came out of such a consultation activity. It never did materialize into income generating activity, but there are, I think, opportunities there to leverage the content, the things that we do through Plante to perhaps generate in the future some revenue for ASPB from those activities. I think that there were some, probably people noticed this, there were some activities called sprints recently as part of the Centennial Challenge campaign to raise funds for certain objectives. And I remember one in particular for the Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowships, the SURF fellowships, and donations directly went to funding additional SURFs for this particular year, and for them to also come to the ASPB meeting the following year. So I think there are things like that through fundraising that we could fund some of our desirable programs, the programs we have. I think it's also important for us to look at the other side of the ledger and make sure that the expense side of the ledger doesn't continue to grow. Too often it's easy to add new initiatives and think of new things we can do, and the things that we have been doing for a long time, maybe we shouldn't be doing those anymore. Maybe they've outlasted their lifespan, but we seem as a society not to go back and reassess existing programs. And so I think that we could do a great service on the budget side in terms of needing less revenue if we were to assess our existing programs on a regular basis as part of a budgeting process, look at the impact these activities are having on our mission for ASPB, and do any of them need to be sunset or expanded or prioritized? I think that prioritizing our greatest efforts, again, aligning them with our mission at ASPB would be would go a long way to helping us reduce some of our expenditures and our need for additional revenue. So I think looking at both sides, I think that expanding revenue and also looking at where we might trim expenses would be a way to address this in the future.
Thank you, Kent and Lanima, for that. It was really good responses, and something that I, as a future person in the society and also as early career scientists, really want to answer to, because I'm looking at what can we do to diversify ourselves and to increase the revenue that we actually have. And so I want to just switch it up a bit and move more on to a question focusing on what do you see as the roles of the scientific societies in the digital age? And I'm going to ask Kent this question.
This is a good thing to think about, because professional societies historically have been important in networking. And in this digital age, there's a lot of other networking tools, opportunities, platforms, but they're not really focused on plant biology. They're not really focused on professional development opportunities for plant biology. And then And then the most important thing, what drew me to ASPB was the annual meeting. It was the interaction with other scientists, the personal interaction in person. And I think that there is still a major role for societies to play in providing professional development opportunities for its members. Yeah, sure, some of these can be delivered in a digital format, but that personal connection and that connection that you get for the follow-up question after the presentation or the discussions that follow the symposium around the coffee, or the seeing someone you hadn't seen for several years, or meeting a new person and introducing them to the society and what you think is important. I think these are things that can't really happen as easily in a digital format. So I think that societies have an important role to play. Certainly they embrace this digital age, no doubt. And Plante is a perfect example of how well ASPB has embraced the digital format in this age. So I'd like to see that activity continue, but not to forget about our personal interactions that are so important in mentoring our young people and providing opportunities for them in their profession. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I agree with that. And also I want to hear from Lanima now, what she has to say on this question.
Sorry. The digital age has really democratized communications, but it's also a two-edged sword, right? In the digital age, anybody can have a microphone, but who do people listen to? So, it's like, are we speaking into the void, or do we actually have an audience? And then we also have to communicate not just with our membership, but with like the K-12 communities, society at large. And what is the most effective way to do this? What kind of content do people want to watch? Again, I circle back to our young and early career members. We have to learn from them. They are the ultimate consumers of digital information. They hold the key to unlocking effective digital communications. I mean, I don't watch TikTok. I don't have an Instagram account. So how am I supposed to know what what are people watching? They know what people are watching. So when we think about expanding our digital footprint, that cannot happen with people of, my demographic, my age, leading the charge. This has to come from people who are consumers of digital information. So again, we have to look at what strengths the society has and use them, to create small content that is accessible to everybody and is in a format that they can watch. And this is how we can really communicate how exciting the life of plants is and how important it is. I keep going back to that over and over again because it blows my mind. Some of my biology colleagues, think photosynthesis is not that critical a process that students should learn about. Not going, like, how do we stop that from happening? But then, of course, Kent spoke really well about how it cannot all be digital. A face-to-face personal communication process is also important. The two have to be balanced. Our conferences should definitely be made accessible to people who cannot attend in person, but then we should also be trying really hard to make as many people attend as possible within, the financial constraints. So those two things have to go hand in hand.
I agree with that. Thank you both for answering the question. And we're just going to move on to the next question. And this question is going to be for Lanima to ask first. What should ASBP do that it isn't doing already, and why?
I feel like I'm on a soapbox, so I'll carry on. I I feel like we really need to create content for K to 12 classrooms. And this content should be packaged within teaching modules so that the overworked teachers, can just straight up adopt some of this content into their classes without having to rejig the whole thing. And uh, we have to start at the beginning where students are really first learning biology. And then we also should encourage our members at all levels to participate in more societal forums. Could we have small public communication grants that say, hey, here's $200. You can get people and buy them beers and get on a soapbox and talk to them. And so, or, not beers, sodas, whatever you want, something like that to really make public communication we're all communicators. We communicate to a large number of students in the classroom. So we just need to expand our role as communicators to go way beyond what we have been doing already. And I think that this should be a real priority for the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Ken?
And the question again is?
Oh, so the question is, what should ASBP do that it isn't doing already, and why?
Okay. That's a good question. It's a bit difficult for me, really, to answer. And I think that one thing that would help is if ASPB completed a strategic plan. We've sort of been without a plan as a society for a long time now, and been thinking that it's going to come, and something that where our activities are prioritized relative to our mission. So if it's a priority for us to educate students K through 12, then it should be part of our strategic plan for ASPB and then be funded accordingly. But I think the one thing that we could really do is to complete that strategic planning process, a process that includes feedback from all of our constituents, so that ASPB is prioritizing the activities that its members think are important. So I don't know if I really gave you something that I think we should do other than that, except maybe complete our strategic plan so we can prioritize what it is we do.
Okay, thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate the responses, and that was like one of the first things that you guys put out there, as in K to 12 should actually have this fundamental access to a plant society. For me, for someone who was a middle school teacher, I feel like this really, I was a middle school teacher for 2 years before grad school. I feel like this is a really fundamental thing to do because kids really don't understand the beauty of plants at a very young age. And if they do have this understanding, it could definitely shape how research will be in the future for plant biology. And so with that being said, I'm going to ask Kent this question. What is ASBP doing that it should, okay, I think I asked that question already. So I'll move on to the next question. What impacts do you expect ASBP to have on plant science and plant scientists over the next 5 years?
Maybe expect, maybe hope.
Yeah, hope, expect.
I'll start with expect. I expect that that the impact in the area of moving our knowledge forward in plant science will have a great impact. If you haven't had a chance to look at the articles that are coming out as part of this centennial celebration, the beautiful and comprehensive review articles that are being published both in Plant Cell and in Plant Physiology, it's just an amazing amount of scholarship that is part of our plant biology community, and I expect the next 5 years to just be breathtaking in terms of what we learn, what we understand at the fundamental level, and what we're able to translate into the applied side, as Nilima has been mentioning. I think this is an important aspect, and we take too much for granted. I know I do. I think everybody must think plants are wonderful and think that plants feed us and help us breathe and do all of the things that plants do. But it's not on the forefront of everybody's mind. In fact, it's the opposite. And I don't know how this has happened, but the public seems to mistrust scientists and what scientists have to do these days. And so we need to do a better job and have an impact in terms of how our fundamental science translates into public benefit, and make the message clear that that public benefit is a result of plant science that's been supported by societies like ASPB, and members of societies like ASPB. So I think that those are two areas that I see where there will be great impact in the next 5 years.
Great. I feel like once we have community engagement more and misconceptions move, that will be a really good, concept to have. Lanima?
Yeah. So I agree with everything that Ken said. I feel like, we are making huge strides using the latest available tools and technologies. I think plant biologists have been fearless in exploring all areas of plant biology and really leading the charge, and often being at the forefront of discovery, and being followed by the animal and medical fields. So that's pretty amazing. A lot of this has happened in the biotech fields, in the field of genomics, and I think that in the next 5 years we should start to see some translational benefit from this. We should start to see all of this effort and money that went into plant genomics research that recharged biotechnology. We should start to see really good things coming out of this. And it will be our job to really, often these translational fruits will come from industry, and it will be our job as members of the society to try to connect the basic biology to these translational benefits, so it doesn't seem like this happened somewhere without all of the background research that happened through societal membership people, the scientists who were driving all the foundational research. But those things are going to be really important, and we will have to help people connect the dots. So it's great to see something come out, as New York Times cites this new flashy article. Somebody has to do the background of that and say, well, it started here, and then this happened, and then this happened, and lo and behold, now we have this.
Yeah.
So that is how we're going to connect everything back to the kind of research that's happening boots on the ground in the society.
Wonderful. Thank you both. There seems to be a huge knowledge and communication gap between the public and plant biologists. And I feel like even for myself, when I tell people I'm a plant biologist, and oh my God, you guys are doing GMOs, very negative aspects of, responses I get. But, sometimes it can shed light on, like I said, misconception, misinformation. And I just want to ask a question, Lanima, you can start off by answering this question. If elected, how would you have our society go about bridging these gaps so that the public can fully trust scientific research performed by plant biologists?
That's an excellent question. And it goes to everything, right? It's really fundamental in our current climate this mistrust, not just of plant biology scientists, but medical scientists, people who are saving our lives. And you have really untrained people saying, I'm doing my own research. How do we reattain public trust? I think some of it is already happening in classrooms, where we need to equip students at every level with the power of critical thinking, the power of evaluating what is true and what is trustworthy and what is not, the power to be able to look at various sources of information and parse out who is trustworthy and who is not when people report on things. And I think that this is really a very basic educational problem. And perhaps I would say that ASPB could again, create some modules on how to evaluate science or how to evaluate a report. And just without any finger pointing, just talk about, what are the basic pieces of information you need before you can draw conclusions about whether the report is trustworthy or not. When I talk to students in my classroom, they go, oh, but we were told in high school that Wikipedia is not to be trusted. So, some teachers started out saying Wikipedia is not to be trusted, and now that seems to be a general thing in all high school classrooms. But it doesn't seem to be true. When I go look at Wikipedia, I find a lot of information there is quite well backed up and quite trustworthy. So, how do we break these misconceptions? And I think we need to really start, building a very rational framework to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kent?
Thank you, Nilima. I agree with you 100%. I think that this is one area where I think a leader as ASPB president can only do so much. But we have a community of plant biologists that are excellent at different aspects of outreach and education, and enlisting the society as a whole in this activity, I think, is super important for the future of ASPB, not just in educating the public and making sure that the message to the public is clear about the importance of plant science, but I think also in communicating this to Congress. I think that for funding streams to continue to our laboratories or to expand and fund our laboratories, we really need to communicate effectively with our congressional leaders where those where that funding is determined to the federal agencies. Federal agencies know how important basic science is, how important plant science research is, but there does seem to be a disconnect in many corners. And I think that ASPB has a science policy committee. They have a lobbying firm to help make connections with congressional staffers and get on the schedules for folks to continue to voice the importance. And I know that ASPB does this, and I as president would love to be involved in more of this. And I'd like for our society to know more about the efforts that are going on in this particular area, because I think that sharing an informed message at a number of levels is really an important thing that the society, ASPB, should be focused on. And I think it'll take a team, not just an ASPB president. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It will take a team of people. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Nima. So for the last question today, we're gonna talk about, and this is gonna be for Kent, as president-elect, president, and past president, how will you maintain transparency to the ASPB members on issues and actions taken by the leadership?
Yeah, this is important. Transparency, I'm a huge advocate of transparency. In fact, the last few years that I was chair of the Board of Trustees, we made available the financial records of ASPB and the summaries of our meetings that we held on a quarterly basis. And these were posted on the ASPB website for our members to view. And I think that this should be done across the board at ASPB so that folks, I mean, not everybody wants to know all of the details, but if you do want to know the details, you should have the opportunity to look. And I think to the extent that we're not violating any confidential agreements or things like that, I think our society should be involved. And I think through there are a number of resources where this can happen. You know, there can be outlets in our newsletter, outlets in Plante, and then behind a firewall for the more say delicate matters behind our ASPB member firewall, where if you're a member, you can sign in, log in, and you can see this information. So I think I'm a big proponent of transparency. I will be an advocate for that, and I've done it in the past and hope to see it continue.
Okay, Nanima, thank you.
I agree with everything Kent said. Transparency is key. Transparency, will win trust from the membership for the leadership of the society, and that is an important thing to have. And so I feel that perhaps there could be more regular ways of communication. Certainly the annual meeting is a big thing. There could be a forum in the annual meeting that is set aside for members to actually query the leadership on the state of the ASPB, what initiatives have been undertaken, what new challenges the society is facing, how do we plan to deal with these challenges? Because our annual meetings probably see way more people than we would see in any kind of webinar or even a Plante forum. So but that happens only once a year. So we have to have more things like that not meetings, but webinars or Q&As hosted by Plante, where people really can communicate. I think that it might also be helpful to have a forum where, if the membership at large has questions for society leadership, they should be able to post those questions. And that way, we know what it is that people want to learn about. What is it that they have questions about? And then we can address them in a more forthright manner. So those would be some things that I would suggest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say thank you to both Nanima and Kent. They did an excellent and wonderful job today to actually talk about what they would do if they become president of ASBP. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. And now I would like to turn the floor back to Jason to wrap up the event. Jason?
Thank you for being a great moderator, Janine.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Jason, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you to our candidate and moderator for joining us. We hope that you gain a lot from our candidate today, and that you take the time to vote, and we hope to see you hopefully in Hawaii. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Janine and Jason and Kent. It was lovely to spend time with you. Hopefully see you soon.
Likewise.
Bye. Thank you all.